In 1900, Ellis Island opened to the world as an immigration station, inviting travelers of all countries to enter America for a new life. Although life in their home countries might not have been a picnic, the trip over to America certainly wasn't a smooth ride for the immigrants either. Lack of space caused the weary travelers to pack in like sardines, and they often had no room to do private activities, such as go to the bathroom. They were standing atop of each other and their own waste, which did not make for such a pretty sight. These people had given up everything for this voyage, and they were miserable throughout the whole adventure. Their only guiding light was hope for a new life. After a trip that ran a duration of a single week to months, the immigrants would land on Ellis Island. Upon arrival, they were met by angry screams in a foreign language they did not understand, English. Officers sent them in droves to the main building, translators attempting to lessen the confusion. Inside the buildings, they were given the option to place their belongings in the hands of Ellis Island baggage workers, or carry what they had brought over. Either way, they risked being robbed or having their things destroyed. After baggage claim, they went through registration, giving their names, their history of medical illnesses, and what their dreams were in America. It was in those same buildings they were checked for medical issues, ranging from mental to physical. If it was decided by the medical professionals that the immigrants were not well enough health to enter America, they were detained for an extended amount of time. Less than 2% of immigrants that entered America would actually be denied allowance into the country. Literacy tests were also introduced later on to test the capabilities of the immigrants' mentality. 80% of the immigrants that walked onto Ellis Island soil managed to avoid being detained and were allowed freedom. They would reunite with their loved ones at the location known as the kissing post. Each culture had different ways of greeting one another. Some embraced, others kissed or held hands. On average, 5,000 to 10,000 immigrants passed through the station daily. Once they were allowed to pass through, they might decide to stay in New York, the city in which the island was located, or they might continue their journey to new prospects in other cities. After the dreamers would leave Ellis Island, they would be met with angry nativists, which were native-born Americans who protested the entrance of immigrants into America. Not only rotten fruit, but slurs were thrown their way. Shouts that the immigrants had no place in America echoed around them. Amid all the threats were also people who decided to profit off the ignorant newcomers. Carts with apples, bread, American flags, and counterfeit money were all around them. Ellis Island suffered many hardships in their time open. Immigration laws over the years restricted the number of immigrants that were allowed into the country, bringing down the traffic through the station. These laws were put in place various times during its opening due to the fears of other countries such as Russia during the Red Scare, when the Americans were experiencing paranoia over communism taking over their democracy. During World War II, due to the low number of immigrants coming into America, Ellis Island was used as a center for the U.S. Coast Guard to use for a detention center for criminals. It was during this time that an attack by an unknown group on the building would occur, while some prisoners and army men were sleeping inside. This led to the government's decision to close down the immigration station for what they believed would be for good in 1954. President Lyndon B. Johnson decided in 1965 that Ellis Island no longer deserved to be left forgotten and in ruins. Ellis Island was then declared a national monument and was therefore under complete protection by the government. Exactly 10 years later, it opened to the public. During this same year, Johnson ridded the country of laws placed quotas on the number of immigrants that could pass through, opening America for all who hungered for freedom.
The purpose of protecting the life of our nation and preserving the liberty of our citizens is to pursue the happiness of our people. Our success in that pursuit is the test of our success as a nation. For a century, we labored to settle and to subdue a continent. For half a century, we called upon unbounded invention and untiring endurance to create an order of plenty for all of our people. The challenge of the next half century is whether we have the wisdom to use that wealth to enrich and elevate our national life and to advance the quality of our American civilization. Your imagination and your initiative and your indignation will determine whether we build a society where progress is the servant of our needs, or a society where old values and new visions are buried under unbridled growth. For in your time, we have the opportunity to move not only toward the rich society and the powerful society, but upward to the great society. The great society rests on abundance and liberty for all. It demands an end to poverty and racial injustice, to which we're totally committed in our time.